While they're on the way, wanted to say hello, welcome to Reaching Freshmen. My name is Josh. If by my appearance you would not like to be in this is a safe time to leave. So, bad jokes. I got 3 kids, so dad jokes are on the way, guys. Don't you worry. I did want to ask you guys a question before we get started. As a guy who's gone to lots of these types of things, and as people who've probably gone to lots of these types of things, I am one part like all about. I served with Drew Worsham at the Rim Church, and was at Resonate Church for 14 years and helped plant that church. So I'm all about prayer, fasting. Only God can do it, and I'm also about like, don't waste my time. Give me the takeaways. Let's go. And so I have a lot of tension in my own life in that space. So I'd love to know, like, why did you choose this breakout session? What are you thinking? Like, what's going on in your world that would say, I want to know how to reach freshmen?
Well, for us, with our context on campus, we weren't able to do on-campus tabling and things like that over the past year just because of COVID restrictions. And so for the past 2021 school year, we haven't connected with any freshmen. So we're kind of in rebuild mode. And it's only my 4th year in campus ministry, so I'm still learning a lot myself. So
Where are you serving at?
We're at the Wesley Foundation at Tarleton State University.
Tarleton State, yeah. Nice. Anybody else?
That's the organization, right?
I'm sorry?
Is that the Methodist organization?
It is.
I'll share. I serve as pledge mom for my sorority, and so with that comes that I am kind of in charge of the next pledge class, which is really fun and exciting. And I'm also an intern at my church, which is Temple Baptist in Reston. And so a lot of my world in the summer and fall is interacting with freshmen, trying to plug in. And so I'm really excited to be here for Reaching Freshmen because I think it's really cool that I could like reach freshmen in Greek life, but also like still at my church and intertwine the 2 worlds that I'm in. And so I'm eager to do that.
That's good. Next year. It's your job next year. Let's go. Let's go. Not every collegiate ministry has learned the secret that they need a freshman ministry team. So for you to be on the freshman ministry team shows that you guys have learned the secret. At Resonate Church, our staff team was 10 people, and 4 of the 10 were focused on freshmen. And that was a value statement. That was that significant for us. So that's good. It's also very stressful and adrenaline. Man, Jack, it's good days. FMT is a young man's game, I'll tell you that. It's like late nights. One more. Anybody else? Why are you here?
I'm leading a freshman-only Bible study next year through our BCM.
And you are a freshman, so you'll be a sophomore? And remind me of the school you guys are at?
Louisiana Tech.
Louisiana Tech. There's a sweet church. Is the chapel there at Louisiana Tech? Did I make that up? Where are they at? LSU. Oh.
Big deal.
Yeah, man. It's too real. Okay, well, let me pray for us, and then we'll get going. And I'll try to keep it fresh and light because it's 1:15, and we just had Chick-fil-A, and it gets sleepy. So if I have some hot takes, I don't mean them. I'm just trying to keep you interested. Okay, we'll get there. Lord, we do recognize that you and you alone save. You and you alone recruit people to our ministries, and God, that's not lost on us. But we also recognize that you have invited us to use our talents, to leverage our gifts, to be strategic, and to not be lazy and not be wasteful with our time. And so, God, as we talk about best practices, I pray that this is packaged among a group of people who's passionate about prayer and fasting and passionate about seeing the gospel go forward supernaturally. We're gonna have an hour here talking about the natural things we can do. But God, we submit to you that supernaturally we need and are desperate for your help. And so, Lord, help us now as we enter in. May this time be profitable. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So I don't want to bore you with my story, but real quick, I was born in Galveston, Texas, so I've been seeing those videos. That was fun. Are you guys in Galveston? No? Oh, yeah, bro. Movie star. What's up? Killing it. Yeah, y'all so cool. Okay, we got to connect. I'll tell you a touch more since you're in the room. My mom got pregnant with me when she was 18 years old, and she was Catholic. And so abortion wasn't an option, but Dad was not in the picture. And at that time, 1982, I'm 38 years old. 1982, you could go to Galveston and the hospital would birth your baby for free if you didn't have insurance and you were in a troubled situation. So my mom drives to Galveston and has me. And so that's why people were like, why are you born in Galveston? I'm like, it's kind of sad and complicated, but here's what's going on. Then I grew up around Beaumont, Texas, and I went to East Texas Baptist University. Kind of as an act of providence, I was going to a summer camp called Super Summer. You guys heard of these summer camps around? Well, Green School is like the year before your senior year, and the preacher or somebody from ETBU was on stage and they said, "Hey, Green School," and we all scream and they're like, "Under 2 chairs, we've got scholarships to East Texas Baptist University." I never win anything, so I don't even look. And eventually, it's like, no one's standing up. So I look, and I'm sitting in one of the chairs that offers that. It wasn't like a ton of money, but a couple $1,000s a year. And so I go to ETBU and I study church planting and missions and just have my world rocked about the local church and church planting. Drew and I do our Music and Magic tour. I was a worship pastor for 15 years, did that for a long time. And then we moved to Washington and we planted church among college students. Now, at the time, we didn't realize it was novel. It was just reaching our city. Pullman, Washington, 30,000 people, 20,000 college students. Isn't that insane? Only 10,000 residents live there. And so by God's grace, we were able to then plant 8 miles away at the University of Idaho. So imagine we had a Sunday morning service here, and then we planted a Sunday night thing at the University of Idaho. And over time, we were able to see 17 churches sent out from Resonate, all from people from within the church, so people that we had discipled. And we worked hard to create a pipeline that goes from an unbelieving freshman to a church planter. And so I'm happy to share that with any of you. But as we get going, here's what I want to ask you. Not how do you reach freshmen. So if you're taking notes, here's the first question I want you to engage. How many freshmen do you want to participate in your summer project at the end of their freshman year? That is the question. Now, based on that being the desired outcome, you reverse engineer that and you go, so for us, we would say 100, which, by the way, we never reached, but we tried. Our summer project was in San Diego, and it was a 10-week project where you would spend all summer there getting jobs, being a part of Huddle and Village and discipleship, and then you came back your sophomore year as a small group leader. And so you could jam-pack a whole year of ministry training in 10 weeks if you did it right. And so how many people do you want at your summer project? Now, you may say, Josh, we don't want to go to San Diego. That seems crazy. You could do something in your local town for freshmen. I know this sounds weird, but I want to start by saying don't waste the summer after your freshman year. Before you even reach them, don't waste the summer after their freshman year. Contexts are very different. Life is very different. And what I'm primarily going to be talking about here is a pre-COVID world. So if you want to talk COVID, we can talk about that. But I think all of us scrambled and had a hard time and moved to Zoom video games, and everyone went and started playing. What's the gamer version of social media? What's it called? You guys know? Yeah, Discord. Yeah, Discord. That's where freshman ministry happened this year at our church, is on Discord. I don't even see how relevant I am. I don't even know what it's called. I'm like, TikTok, is that a thing? So how many people do you want to participate in your summer project? And so what I'm telling you is develop a discipleship process for the summer that ensures you have sophomore leaders who can then turn around and reach freshmen. So I'm trying to get you to see how you can transform your culture in 1 year. You can transform your whole college culture in 1 year by training up a group of freshmen, reaching them, training them up, sending them through a summer project, and then you walk on campus your sophomore year and you look and you've got 30 people who have just gone through a system that can turn around and do it again. So this is the cheat code concept that they keep talking about. What is the cheat code? Summer project is a cheat code. If you want to go online and just Google Resonate Church Elevate, you will see the most amazing videos you've ever seen, which looks like the most fun people have ever had. And it's our summer project that we had at our church. And so are any of you doing a summer project right now? Any kind of summer projects? You guys are doing something? Is it local or is it far away? Do they go to it?
I'll be in West Palm Beach, Florida, interning at a church.
I'm going through Jensen.
Okay, this is really good. Both of those are awesome. They're not exactly what I'm talking about, though they are awesome.
When you say summer project, you mean something that with the ministry?
You guys do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're the leader You're one of the ministry leaders?
I'm on staff.
Okay, and you're the freshman? So you would be designing something locally for Louisiana Tech freshmen, that they would stick around that summer and then would spend a ton of time with you. Training, equipping, culture, all that stuff. And then your sophomore year, it wouldn't be they came back from where they went. Because again, these are really awesome, and please, this is not a hot take, but you cannot guarantee that Dalton is going to get what you need him to get from his experience. But you can guarantee it if you guys design it. Now, so can you outsource it? Maybe. Maybe you can. We could not. We could not outsource what we needed. And so what I'm asking you to do is think through the summer after their freshman year. What are you going to do to maximize that time so that they can then be the culture setters going forward? Now, we're going to go back. This is the Quentin Tarantino movie. Okay, we saw the end. That's where we're going. Ready? Now imagine you have a group of sophomores who have gone through your process and went through your summer experience, whatever it looked like, and you guys hit the campus to reach freshmen. What do you do? Well, again, you needed the sophomores. So now you have the sophomores. So what do you do? Number one, I'm going to say competency number. I wish I could. I can. Look. Oh, God provides. Here we go. Meeting gatekeepers. You thought you were coming to How to Reach Freshmen, but you really walked into Missiology 101. We're going to talk about missions. We're going to talk about how to be a missionary on your campus. Now, if you're thinking throw a big campus event, no problem. You already know how to do that. And you're probably good at it. No big deal. And you will do a really good job of recruiting Christians. Nothing wrong with that. I always say either a non-Christian needs to convert to Jesus or a consumer Christian needs to convert to mission. If you guys attract the consumer Christians, great. Call them to die with you. Call them to mission. Don't just recruit them so you feel better about yourself. I have 3 daughters. I hope they go to college with some semblance of knowledge of Christ and a desire to make Christ known, and I hope they land in one of your ministries. But I hope you disciple them. And obviously we will have discipled them, but I hope you don't just take them and kind of incorporate them into this big gathering. So if you're doing that, great. But this is a different thing. Your summer project, your job is to make sure your leaders know how to identify all major campus gates. All major campus gates. Do you know where people hang out? The watering holes. Do you hang out where people hang out? Do you know the clubs that people are going to? What student orgs are a part of this? Where are you going that you can help create culture? What dorms are accessible to you? Do you have an RA in a dorm? Those kind of things. So again, play along because it's the afternoon. Let's talk this out. What are a few what comes to your mind when you hear gatekeeper? Just entertain me. I know you're smart and you don't really want to talk back. When I'm in a group, I never want to talk back, but we're all bored, so let's do this together.
The rec center.
Yeah, okay, let's go. The rec center.
Student union building.
Student union building. Center of campus. Yeah, that'd be like the hub, okay?
Cafeteria. Yeah.
Cafeteria. Totally. We all got to eat.
Volleyball fields.
Volleyball, especially right now in COVID, right? Bumping.
Coffee shops.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, guys, because we're here, hot take. How much time are you spending there? And not just are you spending there because you're just a regular college person, but like how much time are you spending there thinking as a missionary, processing it, investing as a missionary? Oftentimes not very much. You're usually at your church or you're doing stuff for you. So where can you find yourself meeting gatekeepers? Well, at places with gates. So a leader in your ministry should be able to identify all major campus gates. Now from that, number 2, so let me give you the competencies that you should get into your sophomores. ID campus gates. So it'd be a really sweet thing to do is to take people to Prayer Walk campus and just talk through where do you think people hang out, and you just talk about it together. You don't have to be the expert. You're just talking about where they hang out and you're learning from them and going from there. Yes, ma'am. Question.
Do you primarily mean like where they're not, like, those who are lost are hanging out, or where incoming freshmen just in general are hanging out?
Freshmen primarily. I would say that's a big one. Obviously, campus has a couple of no-brainer sort of places, but every campus is pretty different. Like I think what you guys are doing in Galveston is probably really different than what someone's doing at a typical Big 12 kind of school. So your campus gates are going to look different than someone else's campus gates. Like, do you guys, what would be your campus gate?
Probably the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Library.
library. Nobody said library, but for you guys, that's significant, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We got a lot of nerds.
Nerds.
Yeah.
Is there a beachfront, waterfront area like where people are hanging out? Not so much? Okay.
There's a pier you can fish on, but that's about it.
Okay.
On campus.
There's a
Yeah,
pier.
it's not great.
Say no more. Okay, campus gates. We got that. Big areas where this is happening. So ID campus gates. Number 2, ID POP. Anybody know what POP stands for? Person of peace. Yes. This is in the Bible. This is Jesus' strategy when he sends out the disciples. He tells them to go and to start. Here's how our church planning professors talk to us about it. It's not just the proclamation of the gospel. It could be talking about spiritual things. It could just be who's hospitable to you. And one of the misconceptions you think about people of peace is that they have to be Christian. They don't. They don't. They just have to have the peace on them. In other words, that when you come to them, they're not hostile towards you. They're peaceful towards you. And so as you're going around, who blesses you, who welcomes you, who invites you into stuff. Drew and I worked at the campus bookstore when we first moved to Pullman. And our assistant manager was a person of peace like maybe I've never seen in my life. Like we'd be in a big old staff meeting, 80-something, a ton of people work at the student bookstore. And she's up there presenting about stuff, and she's like, hey, everybody, you guys know Josh and Drew live here? Like, they're going to plant a church. Isn't that so cool? Like, these guys you guys want to come up here and talk about your church? And you're like, yeah, we want to come up here and talk about our church. And she's like, anybody who's interested in their church, afterwards, you go talk to Josh. This is going to be great. You're like, my God, you don't even know Jesus? I'm not sure you even like the church. What is happening? Peace was on her. And that was very helpful to us early on. Because sometimes you hear church planting stories and it feels like just magic. Like we planted this church and this church and this church. What happened in that is providential people of peace that open doors for you. One of the sneaky things, so I'll tell you our story and you'll be like, wow, resonate. What you don't know is that we had our launch service, this whole thing planned, and my wife was a graduate student at Washington State University. She was studying counseling, and she worked in the student affairs office. We weren't even a church yet. We were going to launch on Sunday. On Friday night, they had what's called Up All Night, which is this massive campus event where they bring blow-up toys and this whole thing. A couple of, a fraternity sorority group had canceled their volunteerism, and the guy was panicked. And he calls Amy and says, I heard you guys are doing a church. Could you provide all of the volunteers for this event, and you can pass out flyers? And Amy says, totally. How many do you need? And he's like, we need 40. And he was like, well, 40 volunteers there in 2 hours. She didn't talk to anyone. She just said yes. And so we show up and we volunteer and we pass out flyers. And that was a moment for us as a church where God supernaturally moved into, guess who goes up all night? Freshmen. And it looked like Resonate Church sponsored Up All Night. I don't know how you put that in your strategy. Get to sponsor, you don't. That's a supernatural, God did that. He did that. But we were identifying people of peace and trying to move through that. So I'm telling you that to tell you the success of your collegiate ministry is on the other side of people of peace. Are you there? Are you connecting? Are you making it happen? So talk to me about people of peace. Any thoughts? Anybody?
We had I just remember meeting an RA, like a student RA who had like zero interest in connecting with our ministry. But was absolutely a person. She, like, anytime we had an event, she would go put sticky notes on every door in her.
No way. An RA would do that?
To our event that she didn't even want to go to. And like you said, only God doing that, right? Because she wasn't even interested.
Okay, that's a killer thing. As you guys do, I would say every freshman dorm is a campus gate. Every freshman dorm. And I would say one of your strategies, I can't dictate your ministry, but if I could, I would say one of your goals should be that you have a missionary, a a disciple living in every freshman dorm. And that you're on the way to getting a small group in every freshman dorm. Now try to get that actualized and you will meet some non-people of peace. Guarantee. There are some haters. And what does Jesus tell you to do? Like brush your shoulders, kick the dust and walk away. Like, so it turns out that dorm it ain't working. And you go to this other dorm and it's like, oh man, I will put up the flyers for you. You're like, and the Lord is with us, and so I'm telling you, you've got to get this into your bloodstream. So, a person of peace, we use if someone else walked in, they'd be like, what is happening in this breakout session? Because I'm going to use more acronyms. It's so dumb. We would say they're woolly. It's so dumb. Don't use that. They're woolly. But they're welcome. They welcome you. They're open to you. We use the word oikos. They're oikos, like they're in your sphere. They're in your place of influence, and they listen to you. Again, you're going to take this and teach it to your ministry team. So you're looking for people of peace, and they're like, what does that even mean? It's the RA that's nice to you. It's the teacher that's kind and they listen to you. They show openness. When you start to talk about what you're doing, they engage a little bit. You're like, that's it? Yeah. I know this sounds crazy, college student, but supernaturally, and this is my theology coming out, God has prepared in advance the work he wants to do over there, and he is moving in human history right now to open up those doors in a predestined way, and that's why our theology fuels our missionary work, not that we go out on campus and cross our fingers and hope it works. And so if you could teach your people, God has gone before us. God is a missionary God. God is better at reaching this campus than we are. He's already killing it. God's killing it right now. We're going to go out there and play with the Lord. We're just going to play. And it's going to be rejection sometimes, and we're going to find someone that welcomes us and blesses us, and we're going to feel so much joy because we knew, like, Lord, I knew it. You went before us. You did it. And just watch them come to life under that versus the cross our fingers, hope my flyer's pretty enough, hope our volunteers are extroverted enough, hope our gift is cooler than the campus ministry 20 feet away, giving out water bottles that are a little bit better than ours. Hopefully too real? Yeah, okay. We've all been, that's called red ocean. Red ocean, okay, sharks in the water, look out. And guess what? Christian kids will come and play and they'll dance and they'll go to all your ministries. But the non-Christian kids, they're not going to be in that. And the Lord is opening up other stuff. Okay, I'm preaching now. This is us. Person of peace. Yes. Welcoming, open to you. These are redundant, but stay with me. Welcoming, open to you. Oikos, that means they're letting you influence them. And then listens to you. And then I would say when you have a person of peace, you run a lot of your ministry that way. You send people that way. You go that way. And that's kind of hard because it's out of your control. And you're going on campus. So Jack, you're going on campus and you're trusting that God's gone before you. And you got a killer team. And sure, you got extroverts and that's all great. By the way, I'm not saying you shouldn't do stuff in the red ocean. You should. That would be foolish. That's like brand recognition. They need to see that you're out there and you're not just selling T-shirts out of the back of your truck. That's a little weird, okay? Like, you got to be out there. No big deal. But I would say don't just be at your table. Be at your table, but have 10 other people not wearing your T-shirts kind of around, connecting, sitting in the grass, talking to people. That's where the magic happens, not what the flyers are. The flyers are, we're normal, regular people, and have a fairly good taste in design. And smile, like that kind of stuff, basic stuff. But the real work is in the grass. The real work is over there with the kids sitting on the steps. That's where the real work is. And that's where the people of peace are found. So a leader will be able to identify where God could be moving. Those are campus gates. And then they're going to find the people of peace are there. And then they reorient their schedule towards those places. So number 3, reorient schedule. I'll just put reorient schedule. Reorient schedule. So you want to schedule as much time as you can in that place for the sake of impact. And I know that may seem simple, but like getting time at the volleyball courts where you go a lot and you invite people a lot, getting time in the library where you go a lot and you start to connect with people. And again, stay with me. This is a place where people go, okay? I know you're educated people, but I'm going to, any Office fans in here, I'm going to explain it to you like you're a second grader, okay? I'm Oscar telling Michael how budget works, all right? This is a place people regularly go, okay? You guys have been out there, and not every place people regularly go is kind to you, okay? So you're in now, stage 2, a place where regular people go that someone's kind to you. So now you go there a lot, okay? You can't believe you came to this breakout. I know. Now you go there a lot to where people are kind to you and other people regularly come and hang out, okay? Cool. You go there a lot. You start to become normal. You start to become regular. You start to get to know people's names. And then you move to the 4th place, which is figuring out how you can bless and be good news to a place you go to a lot under a person who's kind to you where other people regularly come. That's how you reach freshmen. And you do that with sophomores who already have your DNA and already have your worldview and are already pulling this thing off. And so that's the process that we use. So reorient schedule and then bless, be good news. Now this is kind of philosophical, and I get that. And as you're talking to people, you're gonna be like, dude, wouldn't it be easier just to like invite people to our event? Totally, you could do that as well. These can be parallel paths. This can be a 4-lane superhighway. But what I'm talking about primarily is if I were a church planter on a new campus and didn't yet have name recognition and didn't believe that an event would be as successful, because I'm thinking like a missionary. And I was prayer walking, and our team was fasting, and we were doing this stuff. The first thing I would do is think through, where do people hang out? And then start going to those places. When someone's nice to me, I go, ding, 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 we have a winner. Hey, everybody, we got a nice person over here. The Lord might be working in advance before the foundations of the world to see people come to Christ over here. Everybody, come this way. Okay, I'm not good at volleyball. It doesn't matter. You better get good soon. Here we go. We're in. And then you're there, and you're playing. You're doing it a lot. And then the next thing you know is other people are there who don't know Jesus. And you start being like, we're buying volleyballs. We're going to replace the net. We're going to go talk to the rec center and see what we can do to like make this. We're going to put benches out here because we have a lot of people. And you're just, the phrase we use is apostolic imagination. Apostolic, new things can happen here. I need an imagination. God, give me apostolic imagination where I can start dreaming about this. You talk about growing fluent in a language. You start to dream in that language. Like the more fluent we get in the gospel, the more fluent we get in disciple making, we start dreaming in disciple making. So we show up, and again, we're just going to go with the volleyball thing. We're starting to invest in that and to make it better. And we're like, hey, can we host a volleyball tournament? And can we give a $500 gift card to the bookstore for the winning team? And you're just dreaming about that stuff. And then all of a sudden, you become vital to the campus. Like the campus thinks of you well. Like so you're blessing your little thing, but ultimately you can become vital to campus. So 14 years ago, we served at an up all night. We volunteered. They have never needed another volunteer for an up all night. Resonate Church now volunteers for every up all night. Resonate Church hosts up all night for WSU. It looks as though we do it because our banners, our flyers, our team, and in those kind of environments, it's take the extroverts, take the ENFPs, take the Enneagram 7s, take whoever you need. Who's the crazy psycho fun person? They go to up all night. Introverts, you guys go play somewhere else. Tonight's not your night, okay? You'll have your time, but it ain't now. And you be strategic like that. But that got there through a process. And so you're in a sweet place when the campus thinks about you, and they I know this is I'm not a feeler, but they like feel good. They like you. They're stoked about you. And then what does that do? It leads to more people of peace. The more you get favor, the more people of peace come around, and the more opportunity you have, and then that can spin off into other things. So we just spent our time talking about volleyball, but that system can work anywhere. There can be micro expressions of that system. It can look like anything. For whatever reason, the architecture professor at WSU was really kind to us. like a lot. And I don't know if you have architecture students, but they like sleep in the building. Like they have no time, and it's a nightmare. But we started hanging out. We started doing stuff there, and it got to be a thing where on Thursday nights, every Thursday night, we would bring donuts and coffee to the architecture building. Micro, small, but it became a thing to where the professors in the department was like, you guys going on Thursday night? This church group like brings donuts and coffee. It's so awesome. And so it just became a thing. And you're like, what does that cost you per week? 20, 30 bucks maybe to grab a couple Starbucks tumblers and some donuts? Not very much money. And you're able to bless people. And through, I'm all for gospel proclamation, but often gospel demonstration has to precede gospel proclamation. And so this is all gospel demonstration stuff is what I'm talking about. You will have your chance to preach the gospel. But it's a really sweet day in your ministry when more people come to Christ on the college campus than they do in your event. More people come to Christ because someone more people come to Christ in these environments than they do in church environments. And they should come to Christ in church environments. Preach, proclaim, altar call. I don't care. I love it all. Anybody come forward. Let's go. But it's a sweet day when the dinner table has more conversions than the altar. It's a sweet day. And you want that. You want that. We're to a place where it's like, it's a sweet day when I'm, like, people are being baptized in hot tubs in San Antonio or at the river or in a bathtub, and we're getting videos of it. So we used to baptize at church on Sundays for like forever, and now we're showing videos of an iPhone in a hot tub or in a bathroom. And it feels so weird to me because this is not what I'm used to. But if the priesthood of believers is true and the kingdom can be anywhere, then you led them to Christ. This is in the book of Acts. What's keeping me to be baptized right now, right? The Ethiopian eunuch. And they're like, well, we got a tub. Let's do this. So a couple weeks ago, we showed 2 videos of people getting dunked in tubs. And I was like, I am so uncomfortable right now. Like the Baptist boys, like, I don't know how I feel about this. And I've been having just the past couple days, like even what JD was talking about last night with the Spirit, we're really trying to do this micro house church thing, and I hate it. I hate it so much, and I'm so mad about it. Because I'm not sure it's possible. But I've been overseas, and I've seen it in China. We adopted our daughter from China. I've seen it, and I'm fascinated by it. And I think the persecution plays into that in those parts of the world. But us trying to do it, we're really trying to do it in San Antonio. And it makes me mad because I'm like, I don't think it's possible. And when JD was talking, it was like the Holy Spirit was saying, hey man, you're really underestimating me, Josh. Like you don't think this is possible? And I'm like, no, I don't think it's possible. Don't be weird. I'm not talking to the Holy Spirit, but I'm having this conversation where I'm like, Holy Spirit, have you seen these people? Like, there ain't no house church movement happening with these people. And he's like, you don't know what I'm capable of. And I'm like, well, prove it. Prove it over there, Lord. So that's what I feel sometimes. And I think sometimes you guys can feel if you're not the main thing, if it's not your thing, then the Spirit can't do some of this. And that's a real temptation. So I hope you would be challenged too, that empowering people is entrusting that the Spirit can take care of them when you can't. And that's hard for leaders. It's really hard. It's super hard for me. And I've seen it. And it's really, like, do you guys do small groups with, like 3 or 4 people, same gender, discipleship groups? Like, you guys do that kind of thing? Whoever you're leading, let's say it's you and 3 others, like the people in your group, or the people that we're talking about here, they will never be, quote unquote, ready to lead their own group. It is only in releasing them to lead their own group that they then become ready to lead their own group. No one is ready to do any of this. You have to send them so that they get ready. It's the disciples. They get sent out and they come back and they're like, Jesus, you won't believe this. It worked. We healed some people and cast out some demons. It was wild. Like, they weren't ready until they were sent to go. And so that same thing is going to apply in this space. You have to be okay sending your people out. It's going to feel like a decentralized strategy of reaching freshmen, and I love you, but it's probably going to be hard for you. Because centralized strategy is your identity. My identity. Mine more than yours. You know what preaching is? It's just yelling at yourself in front of other people. You guys know that? That's what's happening right now. Yelling at myself in front of other people. Yeah. So that's the decentralized freshman. I don't know if you signed up for that, but what I'm trying to share with you is a decentralized strategy to reach freshmen that is primarily led by sophomores that you have discipled and crescendoed in a summer project that then you can send them back in. So, make sense? Questions? Anybody?
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, and I don't mean this to be an oversimplified, silly question, but if it's predominantly led by sophomores, then what is the role of the juniors and seniors?
Yeah, good question.
Can you talk more about that summer project, about what that looks like?
Yeah. Let me caveat. It's led by sophomores who are oversaw by someone like her, who would be the campus staff member. Juniors and seniors, we really try to... There's a church in California called Grace Point. They don't let sophomores lead anything. And we have, if they weren't like the most perfect church ever, I would say I disagree with them, but they might be like what Jesus was talking about when he thought of the church. It may have been them. They're perfect. But they would say that 1 junior is worth 2 sophomores.
Okay.
And so if you guys wanted to do that, there's other churches that don't let sophomores lead stuff. They actually take them through a summer project, and then they have a sophomore thing that they do, and then only juniors and seniors lead freshmen. So that could be an option for you. For us, we feel like we don't have that kind of time. We got to send them back in right away, and that's kind of our model. And every time we get together with Grace Point, we debate about that.
So have you had any, so like let's say like in our context, we've got existing juniors and seniors, and so adopting this model, my brain is telling me that there'd be danger of those juniors and seniors feeling neglected or pushed to the side. Is that a reality?
Yeah, absolutely. Because freshmen get so much focus.
Yeah.
And so what we have to tell people is like, you sure weren't complaining when you were a freshman. You loved it when it was your turn to get all the ministry. So it's just kind of a snarky joke to be like, hey, it's important, because if we don't reach them there, we don't have a chance. So I do think we have a freshman ministry team that leads all of our freshman small groups and all of our freshman discipleship. Then we have what we call it a UMT, which is like a upperclassmen ministry team, where sophomores, juniors, and seniors, unless you're on FMT, are all being discipled by a whole different group of people. And then I led our collegiate ministry, which is FMT, UMT together. And so that's kind of how we broke it down. If you're a senior and you really want to do freshman ministry, it's cool. But generally, you're kind of integrated into the life of the church differently as you're an upperclassman. Our summer project, I can just give you some documents about that, but it's a 10-week, go to San Diego. We all stay in the same hotel. Drew Worsham, actually, when he was on our staff team, he led that whole thing. And you live in a room with, it'd be like you living with a group of 6 women, or you living with a group 6 women. And they wake up in the morning and they go to their jobs, and you're a staff member, so you have work to do. And they come back, and every night of the week you guys are doing something. But mostly it's living together, where you get to see the discipleship play out. And one of those nights is called a teaching night, where some pastor would come in to San Diego and teach. The other night was called a celebration night, where they would get together and tell stories about what God's doing and just play games. It was very campy, which is, if you can't tell, not my vibe. Like, not my vibe. I hated Elevate. I would go down there and it'd be like, oh, so much affirmation. Get me out of here. Yeah. But it was, hey, I could hate on it, and I did. But it was the single most successful thing we ever did in our whole church. It transformed our church. And so I would hate on Elevate and fight for Elevate in every pastor meeting. I'd be like, don't you talk about Elevate, because it may be running this whole church. Like, it was that foundational to ensure culture, to ensure future leaders, to ensure DNA transmission, all those things. That was so potent to pull it off. And then your sophomore, junior, and senior year, we would send you to East Asia. We had Elevate for upperclassmen, but that freshman Elevate down to San Diego, was where the magic happened. And that's really what our leadership pipeline was like. Everyone has to go through Elevate. So whatever you can do, H2O. Do you ever talk to Rob about the well? Do you guys ever use the well? You should ask Rob about the well. But the well was a 10-week program that one of the guys in their network used. Anything you guys can do in the summer, it doesn't have to be 10 weeks, anything you can do to disciple people so that they can get your DNA quickly to go back to campus is going to be good. So, do you have a question, sir? No? No? Yes, ma'am?
So you talk a lot about being on campus with freshmen, it sounds like, starting when they arrive on campus. What about like pre-stuff, like orientation? Right, where you at least at our school,
Yeah.
like, they're coming to campus for a couple days. Like, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is the philosophy of missionary thinking. Also, when I was at Resonate Church, we were crazy about Week of Welcome. Crazy. Like we were there. We had a snow cone machine. We had the whole thing. We did this. Again, freshman ministry team was very creative. Every night they act. We learned something from Up All Night. If you just act like you're the university, you can get away with anything. So we were just like, hey, university's hosting dodgeball tonight. It's like, we're a student organization. Something's happening. They had over 100 people come to a dodgeball game. Freshmen, only freshmen. And there was no plan. There was nothing. It was just kind of that sort of thing that worked out. There's a group in Phoenix, Arizona, where they have this thing called Survivor that has become so successful that the university sponsors it. So freshman survivors, there's video. Look up Hope Chapel Survivor, and you can see how creative you can get and how integrated you can become. They'll take 200 freshmen for like a 3-day, like imagine A&M fish camp kind of stuff where you like take people away for this whole experience, but none of it's Christian, but it's Hope Chapel. And then the talks will be on like purpose, that kind of thing. But what you don't know is like your tribe leader loves Jesus and has a totally subversive plan for your life. Like that's happening too. But it's also just like the coolest thing that the university has going for them as well. So in terms of getting, I think generally we've done this before where we reach out to churches and say, hey, if you have youth group kids coming in, like that's all well and good. And BSM does that really successfully. This is mostly talking about the unchurched freshmen. But again, my kid's going to be a church freshman, so you need them as well. And anything you can do in that space would be good. But this is primarily an unchurched kind of approach. Yes, sir? You got a question?
I was going to ask about summer projects. So the Summit Church does a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
They do it well, but theirs costs like $5,000.
Yep. Because they do an international piece.
It's like hybrid kind of.
They travel a lot. So I think 5 of your weeks are international. 2 of them are church plant viewing, and 3 of them are in Raleigh, Durham. Ours probably costs $2,500, but you make money because you work. If you don't get a job, you get sent home.
So part of your summer project is they get a job.
They get a job in San Diego. Yeah, it's part of it. And again, there's a deadline, and we help them, and we do resume help, and we make them, like we sit with them to apply. It's a whole thing. But they do, if you budget well, you could walk away with a couple $1,000s at the end of the summer, which is a plus.
So do you have any tips on startup strategies for summer projects as opposed to, because we do Ginseng too, with the Ginseng or Nehemiah teams through R&D, just kind of outsourced, because we haven't had any in-house stuff, but as far as creating those, so what's the kind of the first steps to overcoming those barriers?
You could do, so ours got to be, Elevate was still the main thing we did, but locally there were students that had to stay behind for summer school or different things. So we also provided something called Project Summer, which was in your town, same model, but local. And so I think the quick win for you guys would be, let's say you keep doing Nehemiah and Ginseng, but you do offer something like, hey, if you guys want to stick around this summer, we're going to do something intentional for those who want to reach freshmen next year. And you just disciple up your freshman ministry team. So if you guys don't hear anything else I say, if you don't have a freshman ministry team, let me be dramatic. You will not reach freshmen on accident. You will not slowly drift over and wake up with a bunch of freshmen. That may happen supernaturally because God is the best, but generally speaking, you've got to have a team focused on them, thinking about them, praying for them, that kind of thing. And so FMT would be important. So if you cast vision, like stick around and be on FMT next year, you might have 4, 5, 6, 10. That would be enough. And by the way, I don't even know what Nehemiah and Ginseng are. Those are great. But they're not designed to teach huddle. They're not designed to teach missional community, because you guys do that. And that's the difference. They are designed to give you a burden for the lost. They are designed to help you teach, share the gospel. Yeah, totally. But what you're trying to do is say we've got to get this stuff into a group so that they can then multiply it. And so that's the difference. Yes, sir.
The summer project, what would be a way to vision cast for that, about the development of that above and beyond working at a camp like Pine Cove where,
Yeah.
I think I was doing leadership calls this past week, and every student leader I talked to is going to work at Pine Cove or Kanakuk or T-Bar.
Oh, man.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to compete with old Pine Cove. Yeah, I went to East Texas Baptist, so they would set up the thing, and I'm a little bit of like the pot calling the kettle black, if you will, because every summer I was a worship leader for Centrifuge, and so I was shipped away. I worked for World Changers for 3 summers, Centrifuge for a couple. Yeah, so I was the guy who didn't stay. I think you're. And in the Northwest, it was easy because Pine Cove doesn't exist up there. There's no competition. Sky Ranch isn't in the Northwest, So I would say announcements don't work. Big group vision casting is a joke. Let's be dramatic here. But sitting down one-on-one and telling someone you need their help next year to reach freshmen, would they stick around? Might be the ticket. Individual, personal, will you help me reach freshmen? Pine Cove's great. You'd have a great summer there. But can we stick around here? And then whatever you guys do design for your summer projects, make sure it's 50% fun. Because this is a 19-year-old we're talking about. Like, Pine Cove's fun. They're driving boats all summer. It's like hard to compete with that. I get it. But what made Elevate so amazing is it was the beach. It was so fun. It was so fun. And these are all Northwest kids who were freezing half the year. And so there was a draw there. I think if you have access to some kind of camp thing, guys, we just made it up, by the way. Our executive pastor and Drew, they flew down to San Diego. They met with this hotel, and they said, we'd like to have 150 college students stay in your hotel this summer for this long. Called them, whole thing. Could we make that happen? And she's like, yeah, come down, let's meet. We met and just went for it. It was called the Residence Inn, where there's like a kitchen and those kind of hotels. You guys been in those kind? And so we just did the whole thing. And then we sent a videographer down to shoot a bunch of footage of the ocean, a bunch of vision, here's who you can be. And that first summer we had 30, next summer 50, next summer 70, next summer 120. And so it eventually got there. So yeah, small beginnings are normative.
And that's 120 freshmen that are going into their sophomore year, right?
You got some leaders in that, but generally, yeah, I think the most straight freshman we ever had was 85. That's still a lot.
Yeah.
That was a ton of freshmen. I mean, that was a hallelujah year.
San Antonio or?
That was in Resonate. Yeah.
Didn't y'all do house parties?
Every Sunday night, huge. Well, they were beach parties back then. So again, so fun. And how we mimicked it locally is every Sunday night we would just do a huge barbecue and volleyball and music and all the games. Can Jam, you guys played Can Jam with the Frisbees? Oh God, Can Jam's the best. Or any of those yard game kind of things. But they would do it at the beach. And so you would show up, if you went to Mission Beach or what's the other beach down there? I can't think of it, but this last year was at Missions Beach. So if you went to Mission Beach, you would just see a big Resonate Church tent and 125 people out there just having so much fun. And I think that was a little bit of the secret sauce of Elevate, was just fun. It was, and by the way, you got discipled. But it was really fun. La Jolla, that's what I'm thinking of, the La Jolla Beach. Some of you guys live, close enough to the water, you could figure out something like that. Hear the spirit of what I'm saying. Leverage your summer to fuel your future ministry, not just to send people out to do other things. Or, if they're working at Pine Cove, could you see if one night a week they would Zoom call with you? If you have to, if it's I can't do it, that's okay. Just go. If you're going to be on FMT this year, one night a week, I want a Zoom call with everybody. That could be a pathway too. It could be creative. So
Josh, the summer project, you're primarily pitching that to freshmen that are going to be sophomores.
Yeah.
And then any other demographic, future leaders or?
If you're a sophomore that just recently integrated in the church, you can go. It's a little weird for a junior to go. We had some, but it would be a lot smaller. But it's mostly focused on freshmen. But if you hadn't gone before, we would want you to go. Because we also had Elevate East Asia, where you could spend 10 weeks in Kunming, China, going to school, working a job. But you couldn't go to Elevate East Asia if you hadn't gone to Elevate San Diego. And so that was kind of our thing. This year they're doing Elevate New York as more of like a domestic opportunity. But again, we don't have the summer camps to compete with, so we're trying to just provide these opportunities for students to do international, domestic, fun, lots of options there.
And to kind of like, how many of those freshmen that are doing Elevate would be part of that unchurched group? Because like, for their consumer Christian or like cozy Christian coming into college, maybe that may seem like they need to be sent and not. Like, because in Bible Belt South and Mississippi, it's like we want to like send and like get missional rhythms for students. But like if they're unchurched, I could see like where that would be more of a win. Do you get what I'm getting at?
Yeah, totally. Probably 50-50. Like I'm thinking of the 80. Let's pretend there was 80. 40 of those would have come into college with no church background, and 40 of them probably had some church background. So. Are any of you working in BSM models, Baptist Student Ministry models? You kind of are? Yes, no? You're just going to lead a Bible study for BSM next year?
Yeah, for the BCM.
BCM?
So it's like a 10-week kind of program that we follow.
Yeah.
Freshmen only. Other BCMs do it as well.
Yeah. Are you working with BCM kind of stuff? BSM? No? So our approach was not that BSM don't want to reach the lost. That everyone wants to reach the lost. Nobody would stand up and be like, we're not really into the lost. Like nobody would say that. That's never. But they are more designed and equipped to reach the Christian kid, and that's. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's okay. And so our approach was to try to reach the young Christian kid, and even with effort, it was still 50-50. Even with effort, so it is hard to reach the non-Christian kid. And it rarely happens in your events. So because we have a little bit of time, I'm gonna humor you with. I gave you the philosophical missionary strategy. Now I'm gonna give you the cotton candy strategy. You guys ready for this? Real quick. So week of welcome goes into house parties. This would be first 2 weeks. Goes into freshman retreat. Villages. So let's say this is, right around October. Ours last year was in September, but generally, this is Villages Out nights.
Don't kick out without night.
Yeah, just a lot of hanging out, Villages. And then November is when we start promoting Elevate. And then February is ResCon. I have run out of space, but stay with me here, okay? Let me bore you with the details. This would be my calendar if I was leading freshman ministry. I would do all the stuff on the back, I promise. But week of welcome, we would try to get 1,000 to 2,000 just contacts. Invite like crazy. We would go gangbusters on connections. And we would not invite them to anything except house parties. A house party. We have had the cops called on us. We had a budget. We're not proud of this, but loud music. We had to pay out lots of fines for people being too loud at house parties. But they're not drinking. They're just parties with people and food and music. But even if you just got all our small groups to show up at house parties, it could quickly get to upwards of 200 people at someone's house, which is a gnarly experience in college. And so we would house party, house party, house party. Now, this underneath this, it's called the pocket invite. Everybody you meet, what are you inviting them to? Everybody you meet, what are they inviting them to? House parties. And then last year it was sports. I'll just say sports. It was kickball. It was dodgeball. We played a capture the flag. Capture the flag was so fun because we just made it up. We're like, Rogers dorm has challenged this dorm to capture the flag. We made it up. They didn't challenge nobody. Straight up, the university is hosting capture the flag. Do it. Do it. Innocent as doves. You know, wise as serpents. Let's go. It works. It works. And so, again, philosophically, be missionaries. I'm not kidding. Also, get on campus and meet everybody and their mama. Meet them, meet them, meet them, meet them, meet them. Sports, kickball. Villages would be the small groups. For freshmen, we had about 10 to 15, depending on the year, small groups. And that's a guy leader and a girl leader with their huddles. A huddle is your discipleship group. And so about 6 to 8 times 10, so about 60 to 80 people on the freshman ministry team. And they are just having what's called an out night. So that means Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of the week, they're just hosting food and games. Food and games. The more of those you can get in the dorms, the better. If you're hosting them at your church, I get it. It is what it is. But if you can get them on campus, the better. If you can get them in dorms, that's even more amazing. Our most successful freshman ministry village last year was one that met in a dorm. And in one village, over the course of the year, 6 people came to Christ from that dorm. So dorm is where the magic happens. And they're just hanging out. And the next thing you're inviting them to is a freshman retreat. So this is all pre-Elevate. Freshman retreat, a lot closer, like $20 budget to take some of the cost off the freshmen so they can go to freshman retreat. Something like $20 and make it like the easiest thing ever. Like you can Cash App, you can Venmo, you can Bitcoin, like just get them there. It doesn't matter. And they say they can't pay, you're like, we'll pay. It just doesn't matter. Like try to get 100 freshmen to retreat. Like that would be a good goal for any ministry anywhere to go, could you get 100 freshmen to retreat next year? Just, why not? Meet 1,000, party hard. You got 6 weeks. Can you get 100 people to retreat? You got permission. Go for it. I just told you. The campus said it's great. Just do it. Just go for it. You can do it. Just say it's going to happen. Just call it a freshman retreat. And you can be super Jesus. Don't bait and switch. That's super lame. Don't do that. But if you want to be Jesus-y, go for it. If you just want to be the survivor kind of thing where you're doing purpose, whatever. Who cares? Freshman retreat. And then they come out of that into the regular life of the church, which is villages. In November, we're promoting Elevate. We're talking about what's going on in the summer so they can go home at Christmas time and tell their parents, hey, I might want to go on this thing. I need to start raising money. You guys have all done this before. February is our whole church conference retreat, where that's a big opportunity for them to see kind of the global. You're 19 years old and you see a bunch of college students in the same room. It just looks cool. I love the micro movement. You heard me say that earlier. I also hate the micro movement. On the college campus, I wonder if it's a bad missionary move because you don't know a college student that doesn't love to gather. You don't know one. They love it. Even if it's small-ish, they love to be around each other. Even like Dungeons and Dragons is what is what Drew was saying that was drawn to you. He was being funny. But even Dungeons and Dragons kid, even the nerds, they want to go to the library when a couple other people were there, right? No? Maybe? Nah? Introverts? Generally speaking, except for Galveston, my place of birth. So the more you can gather, the better, and it kind of lifts their eyes up. I would also add, I ran out of space here, but then the next thing is the spring break mission trip. For us, this is mostly a serve trip, so we'd want to go somewhere like Tijuana where you can like do meaningful ministry, but it's service oriented. You're sweating together, you're having fun. It's kind of maybe you're not out there sharing the gospel and getting rejected all day. You don't want to take a bunch of freshmen to share the gospel with Mormons in Utah for your spring break trip. You don't want it. You can, but good luck wanting like for them to stick around. Be like, that was the worst trip of my life. I got rejected all day long, and y'all planned me to go on that trip and get rejected. You wanted me to do that? It's not fun. Versus a serve trip, like go and serve somewhere together. Take your juniors and seniors to Utah and get them miserable. That's a great idea. Totally. We do that we just planted a church in Salt Lake City. I keep saying we. I left Resonate. You guys know that? I don't work there anymore. But I love them. So one of the guys from Pullman, where I was pastoring, he just went to Salt Lake City. So there's a place for that, but it's not amongst the freshmen. And then, after the spring break trip, you are able to go full-fledged into Elevate. And so help them raise money. Your freshman year, you could be shelling out like $4,000 to participate in your church. And if you count the big stuff, like spring break trip, a couple $100, ResCon, retreats, like think through with your pastoral team and your leaders, like, hey, how can we budget to offset costs for our freshmen? Because we're programmatically designed for them to spend $4,000. Is there a way we can get that down to $3,000? How can we do that cheaper? Is there a way the spring break trip doesn't have to cost $300? Will someone pay for this for us? Like, money follows vision. Money follows vision. Go make your needs known. Have not because you ask not. Say, hey, Pastor, the university now sponsors a dodgeball tournament. I don't know if you knew that, Pastor, but it sponsors a dodgeball tournament. I need a couple $100 to pull this off. You never know what could happen if you talk about it. So, okay, we're almost out of time. I'm going to let you out early because we're tired. But any final thoughts based on my much more practical calendaring? This is probably what you actually came for, so don't want to withhold from you. Yes, sir.
What jobs do people try to get at Elevate? Is it like fast food? Or
Yeah, I do. Smash Burger is a good one. People work as... we had a girl on our team who would call ahead to organizations and say, hey, we're doing a leadership project down in San Diego. We got 100 people coming down. Would you be willing to save 5 spots for us? And we'd just call. And some people were like, the YMCA is like, we'll save 20 spots. And we're like, great. So we'd tell, hey, we got 20 spots at the YMCA. So we would go to our students with a list of potential jobs, kind of putting them on first base a little bit. And then sometimes, they're like, oh, I used to work for Nordstrom's in Seattle. Maybe I can work at Nordstrom's down there, and they would see that. But fast food was totally an option.
Was it hard to organize schedules with different people's jobs?
Yeah, exactly. You just couldn't. They only had a couple of things where you'd say, like, on these 2 days, you got to be done by 5 o'clock. But then the rest of it was pretty open. But man, some guys were getting up super early to get to their job at 7 a.m. across town in San Diego, and they'd come home at 2 and sleep for 2 hours and get up for dinner. So it was all over the place. That was hard to control, honestly. But calling ahead to get those jobs was a huge, huge thing.
Oh, I got a question. So villages are small groups, combined of basically 2 discipleship groups.
Exactly.
So on the villages out nights, that's just you hanging out with your potential. Is that you just hanging out with your potential discipleship group? You're not really diving into the word at that point. You're waiting till after retreat.
Yeah, out night is really just like a dinner party.
Yeah.
With your friends.
Cool.
But we have all these words we'd use. So you have your leaders, and then you got what you call your core or your fam, depending on how you want to call it, which basically is your discipleship teams.
Right.
So that's 6 or 8 people right there. So your out night is you 6 or 8 are just kind of throwing out, hey, we're having food. And you would hope that a good village was like 16 to 22 people, because that's what most it just gets pretty full in the house and gets hard to feed people over the 20 mark. But an out night is like, man, you want it to feel fun, like there's a party here. But probably those people won't come back next week when you sit in a circle and talk about Jesus.
So in between house parties and retreat, villages are meeting in the discipleship way, but then having one night a week where they're
exactly. They're still doing their huddle, huddle is just you read the Bible every day, and then once a week you get together and repent and believe and do kairos. So
I'm in a unique position as a leader at our church and then also at the BCM, and like Ruston being in slap dab middle of the Bible Belt, we have like a church on every corner, and we have 5 really big college ministries in our town, excluding the BCM, so 6. What would your advice be on not trying to, kind of what he said last night about not fighting for a bigger piece of the pie, just fighting to grow the pie? Like, how do we go about not necessarily stepping on each other's toes? And it's hard because there are so many college ministries that are so big. Like, eventually we're butting heads at some point.
You guys know what I mean when I say red ocean, like everyone fighting. So red ocean is all the sharks are right here. Blue ocean is like if we like go, there's like nobody over there. So like blue ocean would be no competition, no boats in the sea. And so I think for you guys to do the back here and say, where does it look like on our campus that is a blue ocean, where there is nobody? And then, okay, you find 6 places. Okay, great. You start engaging those 6, and 2 of the 6 were nice to you. Okay, so we're gonna spend our time there, and so then you're back to that other process. I think these work in tandem really well. I think you've got an apostolic piece, and you've got a really basic, calendar piece as well. Cool. All right, you're going to get out early, and I'm going to feel like the lame breakout leader who didn't have enough content to hold you for an hour, but I'm grateful you guys came because we're Baptist. And Christian, who's going to close in prayer? Anybody? Volunteer? Hey, you were on the big screen, bro. You got to help us. Like you know the Lord more than us. Yeah.
Lord Jesus, just so thankful that we get to spend this time together and just learn from each other as we engage the college campus. And God, I just want to pray for all of us, Lord, that we would just grow deeper in our just affection in our heart for you. And also, Lord, that we would see just how we can live missionally on campus and how we can build up leaders to follow suit. And so, God, just be with us. Lord, as we just digest all of this and process through what you're calling us to do. And so we love you, Lord. Pray, Spirit, that you would lead us in every step of the way. Amen.